Okay, so today we are transitioning our economy to being essentially all electric, and we are obviously having a corresponding need to generate vastly greater amounts of electricity, which is all good. I mean, renewable energy, electricity generated from renewable sources like wind and solar is hands down today the cheapest cost of production. But of course, for an electric grid to function, it has to be balanced, meaning supply and demand have to be roughly equal at all times. But moreover, you have sources of available generation. So meaning like take, for example, in the US, the plains in the middle of the country and Texas to a large extent are the most abundant wind resources in the US. I mean, you could build windmills in Nebraska that generate lots of electricity, but there's no grid really to connect it to. There isn't enough economic activity in that part of the country, and there's not enough infrastructure in that part of the country to make that investment pay off. However, what you could do is essentially attach mining rigs, build that infrastructure, mine Bitcoin in that part of the country. That obviously creates money, real money for the miner. And then that money can then turn around and be used to purchase energy in other places and maybe even in other forms, but most likely in the form of electricity somewhere else. So that's the sense in which I think you are essentially storing energy when you mine Bitcoin.
Yeah, so let me summarize to see if it makes sense. So there's abundance of ways to generate energy in the world, depending on where you go. The only problem is that as much as you can create energy through solar, through wind, go to the desert or go to a big area where you have wind coming in, that's not a problem. The only problem is the demand. When there is demand for the energy, then you can build the right infrastructures in place to meet the demand. With places that you can where it's relatively easier to get energy, it's usually not really inhabited by people. Hence, there isn't an incentive to create that infrastructure to meet the demand of, let's say, cities or states nearby to fulfill that demand. And what Bitcoin can do is to allow this thing to function